Israeli and American interests in a variety of contexts as the years go ahead. And I want to bring to your attention today one in particular that so far has not been the subject of discussion at the UN or the Security Council, but which inevitably will be, or which will presage a larger discussion in the future. And that is the Israeli raid of September the 6th against a facility in the Syrian desert along the banks of the Euphrates River. We do not know everything about this publicly. There's been a veil of secrecy thrown over it, both by the Israeli government and by the American government. I will say it's a demonstration of the effectiveness of Israel's censors beyond anything that I think people thought was possible. So I don't want to overstate what we know or draw conclusions beyond where it's reasonable, but I do think, based on my own conversations with officials of both Israeli and American governments and the public press reports, that this facility that Israel attacked was a nuclear facility of some kind, and that it was a facility that was under construction in cooperation with North Korea. Now, I for years have been arguing about the threat of North Korean and Iranian nuclear weapons programs, and I think many concerned about the Middle East have taken the view that North Korea was a little bit distant from the region and therefore perhaps not as pressing a threat as Iran. I think that was mistaken earlier, given that North Korea has long been the world's largest proliferator of ballistic missile technology, much of it to countries in the region. But I think now we've got an even more graphic demonstration. We don't know exactly what was involved in the construction of this facility, whether it was North Korean owned, operated, and run, whether it was a sale to Syria, whether it was a joint venture between Syria and North Korea. We're going to have to learn more before we can judge on that. But there's no doubt this represented a serious threat to Israel. I think that's the only explanation for the decision to destroy it. And I think that it's the only reasonable explanation why, within 24 hours after the Israeli attack, the government of North Korea had issued a press release condemning it. Certainly it's not because of Syria and North Korea's common border. There must have been some other reason for the North Koreans to be concerned. Now, there was an equally knee-jerk reaction from the government of Syria right after the attack, calling for, what else, a meeting of the Security Council. And yet you'll notice that in the months since then, there's been no Security Council meeting, which proves that even the government of Bashar al-Assad must have some sense of embarrassment that even they couldn't have gotten up in the Security Council and chamber and said, we're just outraged that Israel has bombed this North Korean nuclear facility on our territory. But I think inevitably, as facts come out about this facility, we're going to have to consider its implications. Personally, I am concerned that the motivation of our own government in concealing facts about the facility that was attacked is motivated not by legitimate intelligence concerns, but by political concerns. There are legitimate equities here in not revealing any information about the Israeli attack or the facility that would compromise sensitive intelligence sources and methods. There are legitimate operational aspects about the Israeli attack that should remain classified. But there is little or no reason to withhold from the American public what the facility itself that was attacked was involved in. Is it a clone of North Korea's Yongbyon reactor, as some publicly available overhead photography indicates? Is it some other kind of nuclear facility, or is it something completely unrelated? It seems to me if there was no North Korean involvement, it would be advantageous for the administration to say so, to avoid the implicit concern about North Korea's boundless mendacity over the decades as reflected in their latest agreement in the six-party talks. If it's not a nuclear facility, similarly, it would seem to me it would make sense to have that out to reduce tensions in the region, if nothing else. All of this indicates to me that what the administration, unfortunately, may be concerned with is that if the real facts of this facility were made public, that it would tank the six-party talks with respect to North Korea and or tank the upcoming Annapolis conference, because it would indicate that perhaps Syria was less than completely committed to a peaceful solution of the Arab-Israeli dispute. Moreover, the fact that there may be North Korean-Syrian cooperation on the nuclear front has implications for Iran as well. When I was in the government, I had a substantial disagreement, let me put it that way, with our intelligence community over Syria's interest in nuclear weapons. And to summarize the argument, many people said Syria can't possibly be interested in nuclear weapons because they don't have the technological capability and they don't have the financial resources to pursue such a capability. Well, North Korea can certainly supply the scientific and technological resources that are needed, and with oil at over $90 a barrel, and the use of Syria as a conduit for aid to Hezbollah and other groups, that is one explanation, and probably the most powerful explanation, why you heard such silence in the Arab world after the Israeli attack. Here was a raid on a brother Arab country, and there was absolutely nothing by way of protest. I think because it was at least known or suspected in much of the Arab world that indeed it may well have been a North Korean nuclear facility, perhaps financed by Iran, perhaps because Iran has the same motive to conceal its nuclear weapons program as North Korea does. What a better way of distracting inspectors wandering around North Korea or Iran than to build the facility in Syria. So the issue of the Israeli raid on September the 6th and its implications not only for the immediate security aspects of Israel and Syria, but for the larger question of Iran's role, I think is going to be significant. And there's another aspect that's immediate and directly applicable in the concern about international terrorism and human rights. And that is, as part of the six-party deal with North Korea, I am afraid that we are very close to the point where the administration will take North Korea off our list of state sponsors of terrorism. Now, this is a mistake for a lot of reasons, not least of which North Korea has, to my mind, seriousness about giving up its nuclear capability. But the consequence of taking North Korea off the list of state sponsors will be, among other things, a slap in the face to our Japanese allies, who have an enormous human rights concern with North Korea, because North Korea over the years has been abducting Japanese citizens. So I suppose you could say, well, that really, as the State Department said earlier this week, that's not really a question of state sponsorship of terrorism. I suppose that's direct state terrorism. So maybe that's a different subject. But the point is, you know how we would feel if a country were kidnapping our citizens and refused to tell us their whereabouts after decades of captivity. That's how the Japanese feel. And if we take North Korea off the list of state sponsors of terrorism, it will have a remarkable and entirely negative effect on our alliance with our closest friend in the Pacific. But there's another important point here, too, that directly affects Israel and the Middle East. We know that for decades, North Korea has been supplying Syria and Iran and other states in the region with ballistic missiles and ballistic missile technology. The record is unambiguous. After North Korea promised not to test launch ballistic missiles from the Korean Peninsula in 1999, a step for which it received enormous propaganda benefit, it directly engaged in cooperation with Iran, which bases its ballistic missiles on the same Soviet technology. So North Korea got a twofer. It got the propaganda benefit for looking less belligerent in the Pacific, and it got the continued value of Iran's advances in its own ballistic missile program. So this playbook of outsourcing North Korea's nuclear weapons or ballistic missile technology is nothing new. And it's why, to me, it makes perfectly good sense from the North Korean point of view to engage in outsourcing with respect to Syria.